Please turn to page 7 of the prayer book. In the Buddha's Dharma and Sangha, until enlightened I seek refuge, through merit from giving and the rest. To aid all may I become Buddha. In the Buddha's Dharma and Sangha, until enlightened I seek refuge, through merit from giving and the rest. To aid all may I become Buddha. In the Buddha's Dharma and Sangha, until enlightened I seek refuge, through merit from giving and the rest. To aid all may I become Buddha. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be parted from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from bias, attachment, and hatred. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, subduer of the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, subduer of the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, subduer of the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. We know supreme among humans, you were born on this earth. You paced out 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then I prostrate. With pure bodies, forms supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. The 3 like you, the 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 ever devout homage, to all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms atoms in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly, this is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, the flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of faults and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. From Tushita's hundreds of gods, protectors hard to tip of this fresh, pure white, heaved good like cloud. O Lobsangdrakpa Dharma's omniscient king, pray come to this place with your disciples. In space ahead, on lion throne, lotus and moon, venerable Guru, smile brightly with delight. Pray stay hundreds of eons to spread doctrine as supreme merit, field for my mind of faith. Your wisdom mind sees full range of knowables. Your eloquent speech adorns fortunate is. Your beauteous body, fame, glory, outstanding. Homage to you, worthwhile to think of, hear and see. Pleasant offerings of water, various flowers, fragrant incense, light perfume, and so on. Oceans of offerings set out and envision, offered up to you, supreme field of merit. None but you committed with body, speech, and mind, which I have heaped up since beginningless time, especially what has contradicted 3 vows. Each I confess from my heart with strong regret. In time of strife you strove to learn and practice, shunned mundane concerns, made life essence full. Protector from depths of our hearts, we rejoice in your powerful great deeds. Venerable gurus from love and wisdom, clouds sensely massed in your Dharmakaya sky, pray loose a rain of vast profound Dharma on fields of disciples just as needed. May whatever virtue that I've here gathered bring benefit to all beings and doctrine, and may it make venerable obsang Dragpas essential teachings specially shine forever. Migme tsewe ta chen chen rezik, dreame gambe wangpo jambel yang. Dubung malu jom ze sang wedak, gang chen ke pe tu gyan song kapa, lob sang drak pe japla so wade. O glorious and precious root guru, pray take seat of lotus on my crown, caring for me with your great kindness. Bestow attainments of body, speech, and mind. O glorious and precious root guru, pray take seat of lotus at my heart, caring for me with your great kindness. Bestow attainments common and supreme. O glorious and precious root guru, pray take seat of lotus at my heart, caring for me with your great kindness. Until supreme awakening, remain steadfast. Homage to the exalted 3 jewels. As if I heard at one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha on Vulture Mountain, together with a great assembly of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the concentration of the countless aspects of phenomena called profound illumination. At that very time, the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the Great Being, was looking perfectly at the practice of profound perfection of wisdom, perfectly looking at the emptiness of inherent existence of the 5 aggregates also. Then through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said to the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the Great Being, how should a child of lineage train who wishes to engage in the practice of profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the Great Being, replied to the Venerable Shariputra as follows. Shariputra, whichever son or daughter of the lineage who wishes to engage in the practice of profound perfection of wisdom should look perfectly like this, subsequently looking perfectly and correctly at the emptiness of inherent existence of the 5 aggregates also. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are empty without characteristics. That is, they are not produced and do not cease. They have no defilement and no separation from defilement. They have no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visible form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no object of touch, no mental phenomena. There is no I element, and so forth, up to no mind element, up to no element of mental consciousness. Ignorance and no cessation of ignorance, and so forth, up to no aging and death, and no cessation of aging and death. Likewise, there is no suffering, no origin, no cessation, and no path, no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there is no attainment, Bodhisattvas rely on and abide in the perfection of wisdom, and because their minds have no obstructions, they have no fear. Passing utterly beyond error, they attain the final state beyond sorrow. All the Buddhas who reside in the three times by relying upon the perfection of wisdom become manifest and complete Buddhas in a state of unsurpassed, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the equal to the unequaled mantra, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, since it is not false, should be known as the truth. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed, Tayata Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisoha. Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva, a great being, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and said to the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, well said, O child of lineage, so it is. The profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced exactly as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra, superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, and the entire assembly, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, demigods, Gandharvas, and others, were filled with admiration and highly praised what had been spoken by the Blessed One. In the holy supreme abode of the Dakinis, possessed of clairvoyance and miraculous power, unwaveringly caring for practitioners as your children, homage to the host of the three places Dakinis. Akasamaraja Sadras. Samaraya Prem Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisoha. Through the power of truth of the exalted three jewel speech, may all on the side of negativity, such as the four maras, be stopped. May they become non-existent. May they be pacified. All enemies, obstructors, and hindrances, Shanti Kuriya Soha. The 80,000 types of obstructors pacified, freed from adverse harmful conditions. May all be conducive and perfect auspiciousness, bring happiness and well-being here, right now. Saji Paki Joshing Metok Dramri Rablingji Nide Sangye Jingdu Mikte Owa Yidroku Namdak Jingla Chebashok Jetsun Lama Dampa Kenam Kichakukala Kyanse Drin Drigne Jita Tampe Dolje Zinma Lazab Yecheki Jarbawab Duso Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryataya Jonan Choki Jonam La Janchu Badu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Dagi Chunyan Ki Pesonam Ki Drola Penche Sange Dropasho Jonan Choki Jonam La Janchu Badu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Dagi Chunyan Ki Pesonam Ki Drola Penche Sange Dropasho Jodan choke jonam la janju badu dagni gyapsu chi dagi chunyan gi pesonam ki drola penche sange drupa sho.
Good morning, everyone. How's snow? It's good. Is more snow coming? No? That's it? Warm. Wow. Really? Wow. This is New England weather. Anyway, wonderful. It's a beautiful day. You know, it looks beautiful. It's a little cold. Doesn't matter. Then what are you going to talk? There's some new faces. Are you guys school kids? No, some school. School.
Are they from a school group?
Yeah, well, from college.
Are you college? Okay. Okay. Anyway, it's very wonderful to see or meet you, all of us. In Tibetan Buddhism, it's motivation is very important. Usually, even whatever we do, any activities, if you have just complete motivation, you will able to finish the job. You say, okay, I'm trying, then maybe I think I'm not finished. If you already start, you are that, then you are not really effort to done that job. Right? Similar that, you know, whenever we have to any practice, also try to good motivation. We say, I want to benefit all sentient beings, a useful person. Therefore, I'm going to listen the teachings, I'm study, or I'm meditation, I do my own practice. Whenever you do that, this is one way to Buddhism, to motivation. Then, you know, we have so many different religions, or the different traditions, different ways to practice. All the religions to benefit for the followers. Therefore, His Holiness Dalai Lama always very important to respect all the religions. And if you want a religion person or not, it's up to our own choice. The Buddhism is, we can say religion. Buddha is the who founded the Buddhism, like this world. 2,500, 2,000, before 2,500 years, like that. Then, you know, he was like similar as the like regular person. He was born, then he got the kingdom, he got marriage. Then after he got marriage, then he found or he see there are all so many problems, so many sufferings. Then he decided to like check or meditation to if it's possible to get out the problems, free from the sufferings. Then he lived the palace, then he did meditation 6 years. After we call cheap enlightenment, is free from all the sufferings, against all the knowledge. Good? Therefore, even Buddha himself said, I have this experience after he achieved the enlightenment. 49 days he didn't teaching them publicly. Then when he teach for Four Noble Truth, we call it Four Noble Truth. Dabashi. In India, Saranat, there were 5 disciples. Right? 5 disciples. He teach that. Then he said, this is my own experience. Therefore, you should check is true or not. If you think this is not correct, just you don't have to follow. You don't have to do that. Therefore, main point Buddha's teaching is in order to free from all the problems, subdue your mind. Subdue your mind. This is most important. Therefore, we call it refuge. We recite this time. We call refuge. Buddha is the founder of the refuge. The Dharma is the real refuge. The Sangha is the helper for the practice or meditation or the refuge. Then we say, what's Dharma? The main real the Dharma is to understand the reality of the phenomena. What's ignorance? What's the problems? Reality. Then he said, we don't know what's reality. What means talk about that? Then the Dharma way,
So, truth of cessation and truth of the path. Cessation. The path.
Yeah. And that thing is
And so the third and fourth truth of cessation, truth of path, are the real Dharma among the three. So, but before those two can be realized, one needs to first realize what is suffering. In order to recognize or cognize what suffering is, one needs to first identify what its origin is, its cause. So when you think about where does suffering come from, and then you identify that the suffering comes from lack of knowledge, from ignorance. So the truth of the origin, so origin is basically what it means in this context is the cause. Where does suffering come from? Or in case of, if we were to use the metaphor of illness, the origin of illness, what is the cause of the illness? How does it arise? And suffering is basically anything that we do not wish to encounter. That is what suffering is. And if you were to try to classify suffering, there are many different types, subdivisions and so forth, but simply put, suffering can be defined as anything that one does not wish to encounter, that one has to encounter, has no choice but to have to encounter. So for example, if one were to be sick and suffering from that illness, then one wishes to find out, one wants to be free from that suffering, so one seeks to find out what is the source of that suffering or that illness. And therefore one will seek a doctor who can then properly diagnose what that illness is and how the cause for that illness, right? But if first we don't experience that illness, then we would not be motivated to check about that illness, where it comes from and what it is and so forth. So if one does not experience the suffering or the pain coming from that illness, if one does not experience the illness first, then one would not even be aware that such an illness exists, nor be motivated then to find out what that is and to go to the hospital and, find out what it is and what the cause is and how to cure, what the treatments are and so forth.
그래? 다 대나시 가서 같이 동아세도 문제가 대수수고 딱 무슨 받치네. 다 대가와의 영혼도 없어. 아니 대라 전도도 문도 대매와 초연도도 문도 삼다마 아니 매워서야 여와싱도 하고 온 거래서.
And so similarly, when we experience suffering, unless we experience suffering, we wouldn't first of all recognize that such a suffering exists, and then wish to find out where it comes to the origin, where that suffering comes from, and then investigate whether it comes from a cause, whether the suffering has its own set of causes or not, and whether there is a method, a way of freeing myself from that suffering.
아니 가서 나사대 지금 나게 와고 왔지. 아니 멤버산도 저랑 멤버처럼 매대서는 저랑 자그래서 저랑 나서도 트라이 요르서도 멤버라 그러고서.
And so first one needs to recognize that one has that illness or suffering, and then seek a doctor or seek someone who can properly give the diagnosis of what that illness is, and then for that listen to the doctor who says there is such a treatment or such method available.
아니 드네 멤버들이 매대 가서 사네 가서 나서 타는 거로서.
And so when the doctor prescribes that medicine or gives that medicine, then by actually taking that medicine, that we will be gradually able to cure ourselves from that illness.
다 가서 동아대 가서 소화 가서 소소한 것은 냐지. 다 동아대 가와요 거 하고네. 다 동아가 제때 매워서 그래서. 대 매워서야 그 답시더라 하는 건 람셀라 버렸어 람셀.
And so we first recognize that we have this suffering, then we investigate and then find out what the cause of that suffering is, and by and so then the method to free ourselves from that suffering is what the path is. What we mean by the version of the path.
동아요가 제때 말이
Truth, the
받으래서.
path.
동아요가 제때 말이 받으시 받으래서. 람세한테 다 무연해서 물면서 리얼리티 동에 들어서. 대다 때문에 미시바데 11로 된 게나 미시벨로도 가까이 갈 거면 어쩌는 거로 봤어.
Because the origin of suffering is ignorance, not knowing, and the path is mishibadi.
11로 된 게나 미시바데 어쩌는 거로 봤어.
And so that if we generate the antidote to the ignorance by generating wisdom within our mental continuum, then that will automatically then eliminate its object, the ignorance.
배차셔나 먼저 니마셔나 강가리 쉬르고도 봤어.
For example, when the sun shines, then it melts the snow.
어때지 보지. 먼저 12 시럽사도 제나는 미시바 못 맞춰서 매도 그래. 미시바 못 맞춰서 매나 아니 먼저 동안에 잡아온 거 봐서 돈도 그래서.
And so similarly, when we generate wisdom, then that will also then decrease. That will lead to the decrease of ignorance in our minds, and then in that way, then we will be able to achieve cessation from suffering.
And in order
to practice and put that into practice, that we need helpers, we need teachers and the Sangha jewel. For example, when we're sick and hospitalized in the hospital, we need the nurses who can help administer the medication, help us and so forth. In that way, we also need the Sangha jewel helpers.
대리 생각조세 가서 식당 딱 가서 견디고 주세요 쉬어요. 근데 대소 다시 당치나 그 줄로서 양 돈보 맞는 것도 내려온 거 쓰고 말해서.
네, 당보 가르치는데.
견디게 줘야 돼. 주고 줘야 돼. 로종야지 돈보 맞는 것도 못 쓰고 말해서.
견디고 줘. 네, 주고 줘.
주고 줘야 돼. 내려온 거 쓰고 말해서. 대서 로종야 이름으로 제면나. 아니 이마에나 당간도 그 소소기 로봇 주로 로봇소 다 기득이 좀 참로 같이 염내적으로 로봇징으로 그래서 커뮤니티로
견디고 줘 주고 줘 레라보 고추고 말했어.
고추고 말했어. 레라고 하고 말했어.
네, 그래서 던단때 견디고 줘 주고 줘.
견디고 주고 레라고 하고 말했어.
So it's not actually the three jewels. It's not easy to understand or to realize the ultimate Sangha jewel or the ultimate Dharma jewel. Therefore, we need in order to help come to that realization, understanding of those two jewels, the ultimate nature of those two, then we need help, right? And so then oftentimes we refer to the conventional aspects of those two jewels. For example, the conventional Sangha jewel would be like the community in which one studies and pursues practice of the Dharma and so forth, or like the ordained Sangha and so forth. And so the ultimate Buddha jewel is the wisdom that realizes emptiness directly, right? And those who have then achieved or generated that wisdom that realizes emptiness directly within one's own mental continuum is who is referred to as the Sangha jewel, the ultimate Sangha jewel. So in order to actualize those within our own selves, within our own mental continuum, we actually need to know what emptiness is. But it's not easy to understand all of that actually in the beginning. But for the time being, what we need to understand is that we need to protect our three doors of Bodhisattva mind from committing or going down the path of non-virtues or negativities. And if that if even that is difficult to understand, then what one can simply think of is that we need to prevent our activities of body and speech from purposefully harming others. Of course, it's easy for us to, without intention, get angry or, for example, cause harm to others unintentionally. That can happen a lot. But in this case, Geshe is emphasizing that if we have no control over those instances when we, get angry or so forth unintentionally, at least try to prevent ourselves from committing harm intentionally, purposefully. So, for example, normally we can get into disputes or fight a lot, right? These days, probably you might not get into fights with one another directly, but maybe through your fingers by sending texts and through the use of social media and so forth. And so, you might get into arguments or disputes with your loved ones, your close friends, family members, partners, children, and so forth by, using your fingers to quickly type out those text messages and so forth. And so has it happened to you that you receive these such disheartening messages from your loved ones and close ones and acquaintances, yeah? And so even though those people who sent the messages might not be able to actually see you, when you receive those messages and get the meaning of those messages, then something happens to your mind. You become unhappy and so forth, right?
Right?
Has that happened to you?
Yeah?
And so when that happens to you, that's an example of harming someone intentionally, yeah? Sorry, I added the word intentionally there. I don't think that was meant to be there. So that's an example of someone causing harm, receiving harm from someone. And so Geshe just pointed out that now the person who sent that message might not have had the intention of creating or for you to, be hurt by those words or by that message. It's just merely perhaps that you guys have differences in opinion, different ways of thinking about something, that because of these differences, you might be hurt by what the other person said and so forth. But, it's not necessary that the person who merely stated their own opinion, which might be different from yours, that they had the intention to hurt you by what they said. But such differences occur, and then one's feelings can get hurt and so forth. But such situations arise, right? It's not that the intent to harm was there from the other side, but one gets hurt or one's feelings get hurt and so forth. And so the reason why such situations occur where without the other person intending harm, one gets hurt, or causing harm to each other or hurting each other without intent, that comes from the ignorance from the other side as well as ignorance on our sides. And so really the cause of such harm and suffering, pain and so forth, the origin for that is ignorance. And so then if we were able to think, well, the person said this because from their side maybe they were, because of their own ignorance or misconception or not knowing completely what the situation is. Yeah, if we were able to think that, then that would help either diminish or stop anger from arising, from our having that angry reaction. But it's because we're not able to think that way, then we get angry and so forth, right? And so, for example, if you were to look at some action of a little child, and we know that the child didn't know any better, then it's easier not to get angry. Most people would not get angry with that child for behaving or saying something, right? In that way. But whereas if an adult makes similar mistakes or says or does something, then everyone tends to get angry because we don't consider the possibility that that fully grown adult might also be acting from ignorance, out of ignorance. And so therefore we should think about and so we're going to meditate and contemplate for a couple of minutes. So please try to bring to mind recent instances or situations that have made you unhappy, not necessarily from physical illness or something like that, but circumstances such as having received unpleasant messages or exchanged words with others that made you unhappy, those types of instances that made your mind unhappy recently.
Okay.
So first, please try to recognize or to bring to mind, remember such an instance.
1 minute. Okay. Everyone got something?
So have you been able to identify and bring that to mind?
You don't have to say any kind. You find something, you want something.
So now please reflect on what the causes and what the conditions are. So think about how that situation arose, or how that feeling of unhappiness, what were the conditions for that arising?
For example, if someone hits your car, any kind you can remember. 다 디지털 다 전화서 드리셔나 전화서 하고서 안에 내리지는 안에 강한테 총소 좀 사전으로 줄어서
So have you been able to identify the condition, specific cause or condition that gave rise to your mental unhappiness in that
Yes.
situation?
You want that? 다 전화서 다디 강한테 세가 탑신되어 세안되어 전화서 다
Now please reflect on, is there a method to clear away that discomfort or mental suffering, mental unhappiness regarding the situation? So have you been able to determine whether or not that mental unhappiness, or that situation, if there's a way to clear that away or to free oneself from that situation? A solution to that problem, I should say.
Can be solve the problem. 다디 전화서 데이터에 직세 강한테 매워서요. 다 강한테 매워서요. 라차로 양만의 직 밀게 시고 근데 소소 라네 타고 근데 곰자고 근데 아니 미실 로바치 세군데 간데나 다디 라네 다이레스 라네 타와이나 강한테 세로레스.
And so if you have been able to identify the method or the solutions, whether it be meditating on the problem, that issue, or whether it be reaching out to someone else who could help out with that situation, whatever that method is, now you need to actually put that into practice to, what's the word? To enforce, instate that.
Okay, that is lan에 따라서 다디 데마식 노단하고들 주바로 작업해서 고대원하고 지내시.
And so this might be a very rough and general kind of brief example of how we might meditate, what the meditation on the Four Noble Truths might be like. For example, recognizing what suffering is, and then trying to identify what the origin or the cause of that suffering might be, and then trying to identify the path, right, the solution to free oneself from that origin of suffering. And then by putting that into practice, by practicing it, then eventually then one arrives at the result of then actualizing the cessation of that suffering, right? So in that way, Geshe just outlined, you have a very mundane, in a worldly sense, this mundane problem, situation that causes you unhappiness. You recognize that is a problem or a source of unhappiness. You try to identify what the origin or the cause, the conditions that give rise to it, and then try to reflect, contemplate on, is there a way out of that to clear away a solution to that? And then now once you've identified the solution or the path to take in that situation, then you actually need to walk that path. You actually need to put that into practice to try to achieve the solution, achieve the state of being free from that source of suffering or unhappiness. So for example, if there was to be a sudden like flooding, or let's say, there's a lot of water got spilled in front of us or something, then first you need to think, is there a way to clear up that mess, right? Some way of drying up that land, drying up the space in front of us from that water. So if there is a method that can be, adopted to do that, then you would do it. You put that into practice in order to, you adopt that method. You go ahead and, whether it be wiping it away or whatever it is, to clear away the water. If there is no way to do anything about it, then there's nothing that can be done, right? Yeah.
Okay. 그래서 또 남백이 신앙가도 샘라야 샘기 대화단 리기동하세 동아마라니 샘기 대화단 리기 대화단 이용을 해서.
So in the discourse of the Dharma, we speak about two different types of happiness, right? 샘기 동아리에 대화를
샘기 대화단 리기 대화니.
Okay, so yeah, two types of happiness, right? There is the happiness that arises from the mental state, so mental happiness versus the physical happiness, one that is tied to the physical body. And likewise, with suffering, there is mental suffering and physical suffering. So with physical happiness, it's not very stable, right? It's always ready to change in the next moment. And similarly with the physical suffering, it's also very quickly, very momentary, quickly changes, yeah?
New England weather New England.
He was speaking English, and I was trying to think what that word was. He said New England weather, then it's the same as New England weather. Like New England weather that is quick to change.
Right? Like example, today snow, the next 2 days becomes 60, 70, right? Then come down.
And so similarly, just as New England weather, where it snowed yesterday and then now it's going to be in the 50s, 60s in the next couple of days, very quickly change, very unstable and momentary, right? Impermanent change. So like that, yeah, I was in And so similarly, our physical state of happiness and suffering is likewise very unstable and momentary. And Sengi Dewa did Lushi Maimba teacher. Okay. So he was Geshe was saying that, however, with mental happiness, state of mental happiness, that is much more stable. And I asked for clarification here. Just to clarify, we're not talking about mental happiness that arises or that is in conjoined with physical sense of happiness, right? That is related to the physical comfort and so forth. That's something that is related to the physical state of the body. We're talking about mental happiness that is really from just from the consciousness aspect, right? In nature, and just to do with the mental consciousness. So that kind of happiness that is that type of mental happiness, once attained, can be very stable, not as quick to change.
And today similar dewa yungijina miden nasa nawa nasa the kashi try yungijina lela out
and so if so it is, you know, if one were to be able to attain that stable type of mental happiness, even the scientists say that it's much easier if one were to be sick or be suffering from illness to quickly to be able to recover more quickly from the illness. And so similarly, if the mind were to be unhappy, then also it affects us physically. So we wouldn't be able to recover as quickly from illnesses and so forth as well. It affects the body negatively.
Okay. Today the benangazo shulokun tinje chatan zomge daksani shilokudra maboyungdo was. Tendokos bena tinjela kangeyo mares. Tamda nyenra da kaso da kanje shilokun tinjela kangeyo mayina semla dewa me wayinda ko shiboda yungdo was.
다음 가르치는데 퉁kengi
shilokun tinjega kangeyo mares. ina semla dewa me wayinda ani mesane shilokudra yungdo was. Men to men.
So, for example, you might have someone who is, who doesn't necessarily have a lot of adverse conditions externally, but because they're unhappy internally, you know, they might take drugs and overdose and die and things like that, right? Like they might not have much from like external circumstances that might not be so difficult, right? They might not be like suffering from a lot of, let's say, material difficulties or they might not have external adverse conditions, but because their mind is unhappy, then they might, take drugs and engage in methods that lead to harm.
어떻게든 간지나 지금 선발 주부죠. 선발 혈류체 탑시제 빼는 것이 뭐래서. 이제 샘거 나서도 샘거 세고 그래서.
So therefore, it is very important to apply whatever method is necessary to achieve that state of mental happiness, and also to realize that only the mind can solve mind's problems.
나도 리그 나서도 매일 나도 살이 여러 와서 매일.
And so, for example, for physical illness, we need to actually take the physical medicine, right?
그 샘거 나서 생면도 실로 매도 배도 말해서.
But for the mental illnesses or mental illness, mental problems, taking physical drugs will not help. Only the mind can cure one's own mind.
나도 샘발을 강의고도 실로 매적인도 와서. 이 매도 샘을 상담하면 그 니바가 막 싸가 가셔 여러 와서. 오늘 샘발 강의도 세도 말 와서.
So one might take drugs, right? One might be prescribed drugs or medicine to help with mental problems or mental depression and so forth, but it cannot really solve the mind's problem. It might physiologically influence the interactions that are happening at the physiological level, but it cannot really get to the root problem of the mind itself.
Okay. 아니 샘거 강의도 샘거 상모 당당 거네. 다 매우 속고 그러었어.
And so in order to solve the mind's problem, one really needs to approach it from the mental aspect, to solve that problem with another type of mind that is an antidote to that
Okay.
problem mind. And so he says that Geshe said, well, we don't need to discuss too much in this manner, but that's like in general, a kind of an introduction to talk to Buddhism. So kind of easy to understand, kind of an introductory discussion of the Buddha Dharma in general. So in order to study, one needs to think, and then whatever one thinks about and comes to the conclusion about, then one needs to then put that into practice.
Okay. Okay, 대지 다 되는 거도 다 되는 다 나도 되는 봐. 가서 쉬운지 손대 봤대. 다 되마 되는 거 있어.
And so since that is the case, then we will continue where we left off with the Guide to the Bodhisattva Way of Life.
아니 네 배자 되다 나도 손바보디 다 자기 개발된 데서.
And so the author of this text is a great Indian master scholar.
아니 점보는 보셔 송근도 와까지 샘근 나사 사야기 다 냠네 야수도 배자 되래서 송근도 보세.
And His Holiness the Dalai Lama has always said that the text that is best able to clear away mental problems or give us solutions, antidotes to our mental illnesses and problems and so forth, is this text called The Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life by the great Indian scholar, Buddhist scholar, Shantideva.
Okay. And then 내일 배나 단단하고 챕터 2 받아서 오늘 챕터 2가 되게 가서 오나 또 공로사 되게 니무셔요. 그래서
And so right now we are on chapter 6 of this text called Patience, and what this is about is actually the antidote, discussing the antidote to the mind of anger.
저도 공로사고요.
And have you guys become angry before?
Never.
Ever? Never?
나도 공로사에 지나 세나 지우면 돼. 나도 라로 술사나 공로라는 지우면 돼.
And so we're not happy when we become angry, right?
Right? 나도 공로사는 미파죠 가지고 오늘 공로 되고 미파죠 지우면 나도 소 차르고 돼.
And also when we're angry, are we not only unhappy, we also become causes for with our actions, we cause others to also become unhappy.
다들 밥 먹어. 네가 가는 소 너도 가는 가지 공로 마사세. 라에 조 되려고 했다나. 다 텔 탑시 나 뭐다. 르반다 뭐다 지그레스 봐.
And so here it discusses in great length, but the essence of it all is basically saying, don't get angry because it's not helpful, and then discussing all the different methods, all the different reasons to counteract that mind of anger.
단디 도무지 저와 해난 가서 또돌아 또던 집어셔발 맞잖아. 배나다 가서 참아 가서 돌아다나 가게 와서 가서 참아 돌아다나 미 돌아다나 가서 가게 와서.
담보실로가 냠도 지금
아니 준로가 내나 담보대 아니 용사로. 아니 실로가 치료셔도 실로가 자식 잡제도 치료하더라 와서.
구지 말해. 구지 말해.
오늘 그쪽지.
Okay. So I believe we're on verse 98, right? And
대치로다 가서 야 배벨 우설한테 양아도 바차샤 그래서 걔나 바차샤 저놈 좀 신나요 그래서.
and so Geshe said that also by reading this out loud, then we can also help create imprints in our minds about this. So I believe it's on page 69 if you're using this version. Page 69, verse 98. Praise and so forth distract me and also undermine my disillusion with cyclic existence. I start to envy those who have good qualities, and all the very best is destroyed.
다 네가 된다 너무 도도로 갔나? 하는 가서 지금 땀다 내려서 여러분.
So if you were to, summarize this, if you were to just summarize and try to explain it in a very easy to understand manner, so we have this thing called praise and fame and so forth, right? The worldly praise and fame.
그래서 안솔라 된게 땀다 내려 영화라 바지 칭에는 것도 데려 고로사 그러고 왔어요.
And usually when we think that someone is trying to hinder or obstruct our getting praise and fame, then we might get angry at that person, right?
Right? 근데 다들 어떻게 되는 고로사요 말라 그래서 근데도 도도로 되래서.
And so the essence of this advice is saying you shouldn't be angry with such a person who might be obstructing you from gaining fame or praise. But not to get angry at such a person is kind of difficult. It's not easy, right? I mean,
right.
When you because all of us we need to be praised. We like fame, right? We like renown and so forth. So of course it's going to be difficult not to get angry at someone who seems to be harming out. No. So now he's going in the text. He's going to be speaking about the way to put into practice, not getting angry at that object or that person who might be causing, who might be obstructing our gaining fame and praise and so forth. And so he's going to so the text is going to, the author is going to present different reasonings that we can think of to counteract our usual anger in that situation. So if we are practitioners, real practitioners with the Dharma, then if we were to be showered with praise and fame and so forth, then because we like that, because of our attachment to that, then our minds might then be distracted towards praise and fame and not be able to really stay focused on our practice. And so then if because of our attachment or our being happy about praise and fame, then our disillusionment with cyclic existence might then diminish. And because of our disillusionment with cyclic existence decreases, then our desire to be free from cyclic existence, which is renunciation, that in turn will also diminish and decrease. And not only that, then our jealousy towards others who might have good qualities, who might be endowed with, good qualities and so forth, the jealousy will also increase. And not only that, but our own collection of merit, of good qualities and so forth, that will also come to deteriorate. And so therefore, when we think of it in that way, then praise and fame, becomes like the origin or the cause for all our good qualities to deteriorate. Right? Becomes a source for that to happen.
오다 되는데 다 도도 제가나 그냥 돌아다니라 받치지는 데라 콘로 마사마도 돌아다녀야 되게 그냥 알아야 니 밤만 못 주고 그래 누가 못 주고 그래서.
And so since praise and fame and so forth, compliments and so forth, become the door through which, or becomes one of those conditions for one's good qualities, one's merit, collection merit and so forth to deteriorate, to decline, to diminish, and therefore we should not become angry at someone who blocks that, blocks fame and praise, right? Who blocks the source of that decline, that deterioration of our good merits. But it's all actually, more difficult to put into practice, right? So do you think when you apply it to yourself, do you think you would be able to stop yourself from becoming angry at someone who might be, obstructing you from gaining fame and praise?
Okay. And
so were you able to understand the meaning of that verse? Yeah, that's Geshe explained.
다 데이터 처리 무슨 된다고 하지. 다들 파는나 조대 만도 착받으려고 그래서 만도 도서를 좀 착받으려고 하래 그래서 만도 대가로 왔어.
And so that's like the explicit explanation, the meaning of that verse, right? But implicit, so directly it is stating that, but indirectly we can also learn from it that what it's talking about is the attachment to getting not only the praise and fame itself, but it's our attachment to getting praise and fame. That is the real problem. And the root cause of our attachment to praise and fame and so forth is actually the self-grasping ignorance. 소속인 대바 용어체도. So because in order to achieve or in order to get that object of our attachment, then we end up engaging in all the negative activities such as lying, lying to others, misleading others. Okay. And all the various, the 10 non-virtuous activities of body, speech, and mind, such as killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, harsh speech, and so forth. Yeah. So we end up engaging in those non-virtuous activities in order to achieve the object of our attachment.
Okay. 다 강들은 데 같이 또 술래나 코로사요 말해서
And so in short though, basically saying don't get angry, because if you get angry, then it's you yourself who's going to become unhappy.
Okay?
Okay, and so then following, yes.
Okay, so let me then go and read its translated translation that shows
both texts. Is that when Geshe and I were going through comparing the translation of the Tibetan versus the English translations, some were more literally translated in this version, so it was easier to follow Geshe's commentary following this version.
Good, yeah.
And then also some were better translated, so it just alternated. Some were better in the other versus another. So then in this version, in this translation, it says, praise and so forth obliterate my peace and disillusionment with the cycle of existence. They stir up jealousy toward gifted people and anger at their success.
Okay? 다들 좋아. 다들 쇼가 그니까는 아니 딱으로 된 곳에 이런 곳에 봐서 나 소소 돌아도한테 방 곳에 되는 소소 겐도 말어 동안 곳에 자는 그래서 동안
So let's first maybe read verse 99. So everyone is reading from, is this?
We all have the book.
Okay.
Most people have this one. This is the one we have in the books.
Okay, so I'll read from both, and whoever has which version can read with me, okay? So in this version, verse 99 says, "Therefore are those conspiring to destroy my reputation and so forth, not protecting me from falling into hell." Okay? So keep that in mind, and now try to listen to this translation, because it's not necessarily that one is right and one is wrong. It's just that they provide different window into the same meaning, so it can be helpful. Yeah? In this version, it says, "Therefore are not those who are closely involved in destroying my praise and the like also involved in protecting me from falling into the unfortunate realms."
다 뒤져다가 떠봐나에 제시 강단이네 봐. 수수라야 아니 단도 딱 돌아다니러 와. 내가 되게 아니 따때 매바서가 있지. 아니 대 모여 와지도 될라지. 매바송에 대 소소소라 얘기가 소소라야 다 녀지 되기도. 아니 다 kana ngeso tongwalaya ngeso do mandoyageya ropa chingedere 들어 수모 chingedere.
So those who prevent us from getting praise and gaining fame and so forth, since praise and fame and so forth are the condition, right, that lead to these negative consequences of having our merits decline, of engaging in actions that then lead us to the lower realms and so forth like that. So those who actually obstruct that, right, those who obstruct us from gaining praise and fame, are they also not ones who are actually helping us or preventing us from falling into the lower realms or engaging negative actions, or from our collection of merit and so forth from declining and deteriorating? So normally from the worldly perspective, if someone is obstructing us from getting what we think is good thing, like good praise and good fame and so forth, then we get angry at that person, right? The one who's preventing us from getting praise and fame. But from a Dharma practitioner's perspective, we shouldn't get angry at such a person who is preventing us from being able to gain fame and praise. We should think that they're like our best friends who are protecting us from the consequences, negative consequences that praise and fame can lead to in our practice. So for example, if you were about to drink poison, mistaking that it's something good for you, like medicine for you, and if someone then obstructs you, takes away that medicine from you, then that person who did that becomes someone who benefited you and not harmed you, like that. But then if you don't know that poison that the person just took away from you was actually poison, then that person might get angry, like you just took away something that was good for me, right? And so similarly, the person who obstructed you from getting fame and recognition and praise and so forth, they actually obstructed you from those negative consequences of falling into lower realms, or having your merits decline and so forth. So they really were those people who prevented and obstructed you from getting fame and praise. They actually protected you from experiencing the negative consequences. Yeah.
Okay.
And so therefore you shouldn't become angry at those people. You should actually like them and recognize them as having been your best friends or people who really helped you. In short, so what one can extract from this verse, from the meaning of this verse, is also that the ones that we fight with, that we don't get along with, that we're annoyed by, and so forth, you shouldn't think them as people you shouldn't let them become the object of your anger. Rather, you should think them as your best friends, those who really help you. But usually we're not able to think like that because it's difficult, isn't it? And so from the perspective of someone who a practitioner of the Dharma, those people are actually our best friends, our best helpers, yeah, in our practice of cultivating patience and so forth. So usually the ones who really make us happy, the ones who make us miserable, the ones that we fight with, the ones that we are closest to, those kind of interactions that we deal with every day, it's in relation to those who are near us, right? It's like a stranger thousands of miles away are not going to be the objects of our emotions or we won't have that relationship or interaction with those who are far away. So if we were to then, the four immeasurables where it says, may all symptoms happiness and the cause for happiness, if on the one hand we say we're meditating on that, on that thought, and then on the other hand we are, picking fights and fighting with those who are closest to us, it won't be authentic, would it? Okay, so that's the way to practice the Buddha Dharma, if one wants to practice it. But in actuality, to put it into practice in actuality is very difficult, isn't it? But if we're to try to habituate ourselves and familiarize ourselves with these methods, then eventually it will become easier. Olympic. So for example, right now the Winter Olympics is going on, right? So some of the things like the different types of sports, if we look at it as someone who is completely unfamiliar with the training, it looks so scary when they do those fancy jumps and so forth, right? But for those athletes, because they are completely familiarized with that and habituated, practiced in that, they're not afraid like we would be. We're untrained and just looking at them doing those activities. Yeah?
Okay,
So now let's move on to verse 100. So I'll read from both versions. The bondage of acquisition and honor is unfitting for me who seeks liberation. How can I hate those who are freeing me from bondage, right? From this text it says, I who am striving for freedom do not need to be bound by material gain and honor. So why should I be angry with those who free me from this bondage? So there are two reasonings that will be presented in this text as to why it's not suitable, why it's incorrect to get angry at those who obstruct our gaining fame and praise and so forth. And the first reasoning that will be presented is that those who obstruct us from gaining fame and praise and so forth, they're a condition, one of the favorable conditions for us to be free from cyclic existence, and therefore it's unsuitable to be angry at those who actually become a condition for us to be free from cyclic existence. So the first line that says, I who am striving for freedom. So I, such a Dharma practitioner, should be someone who is striving for freedom from cyclic existence, right? And praise and fame and so forth, those are things that bind us. These are the types of things that bind us to cyclic existence.
그래서 나를 무거워야 되죠.
And therefore, it's not something that I need. Yeah.
그래서 님바다 기득은 다 안에 강다다는 강다 다치 조시 봐 대화도 있다. 그래서 다 그리고
So.
야.
강다 다칭 로제반 대가 다니 지터로.
그래서 아니 소송 고알에 조시 대라 나 가지는 고로사 그래서.
So those who then free us from that binding, from that which binds us to cyclic existence, why should we be angry at them, right? As it says here, so why should I be angry with those who free me from this bondage? So for example, if someone were to be helping to free you from break you out of prison, would you be angry at that person?
Okay. 아니 제가 타와 되는 얘기지. 이마이나 아니 되는 가다들 저랑 공부사요 말했어.
And so if you're someone who is practicing, who's striving for freedom from cyclic existence, then likewise in that way you shouldn't be getting angry at those who prevent you from getting fame and praise, which become one of the conditions for being bound to cyclic existence.
근데 그 소소 때 받쳐야 되겠니? 소소랑 아는 고발에 조화시비가 기වි신이 전부들이 들어.
And therefore those who prevent you from gaining worldly praise and fame and so forth end up being like your greatest teacher. Yeah. On this in your practice or in your striving for freedom from cyclic existence.
그래서 단도서 냠내지 깔 가오요 들어. 원래라고 가서 제도 말했어.
So it's kind of difficult to really put that mode of thinking into practice. Yeah, it's hard to do.
있는데 뭐니 냠내 제가 삼았다만은 다다 작을 이걸 곰마고 잡삼고 뭐 다른 것도 생각하고 작을해서.
But however, if you continue to think about these reasonings and then analyze them again and again, then it is possible that then you will be able to understand the meaning and for that mental attitude to seep in your mind.
왜냐면 부고 갑래야 부고 주주서야 밤에 가들라나 밤마디가 야고 제부터 좀 산대 그러고 밤에 부고 야보 치야게 치야듯이 그디나 지금 와서 니 마치 제일 납도 그러다 부잉하나 밤마디 야고 제부터 가나 라운드 트임도 산대 그러고
So for example, for little kids, I mean, the parents will always want the best for their child and will instruct them constantly, don't do this, eat this, do that. Will constantly be ordering the kid around, so to speak, right? And from the kid's side, because they don't realize that the parents are doing this solely for their own benefit, they might resent it and say, oh, they never give me freedom. I don't have my own, I cannot do things my way, or they might not like it. And so then kids will usually wait for that age of 18. And then also then and then even after they gain their freedom at the age of 18, if things don't turn out so well, then they will still go back to their parents and say, please help me, right? Yeah.
밤에 저런 따나 문이 받았나 밤에 저런 지 야밤에 통도 왔어. 옛날 통도 왔어. 누구들 밤에 대 저런 팬도 걸어왔어. 대나지 내고 문이 저런 돌아 받치 단 거요. 통도 쉬는 저런 문이 팬 걸어왔어.
So for example, from the kids' perspective, they may think that, oh, my dad or my parents are preventing me from being able to go here or have this fun, or, From the child's perspective, they may think they're obstructing me from getting what I want. But then in reality, they were actually benefiting that child and preventing that child from getting into danger or, getting hurt and so forth. So similarly, in this case, those who are preventing us and blocking us from getting fame and praise and so forth are actually the ones, who are blocking us from falling into, into cyclic existence or causing our merits and so forth to deteriorate. So they're actually our helpers or our best friends, not our worst enemies. Yeah.
다 솔로가 자다 지되게 아니 대마제 동아를 조제만 마데 아니 동아지 고체제 계속 고체제래 고까제래서 근데 저쪽 말해서 하지.
And so then not only so the second reason why such those beings who obstruct us from gaining praise and so forth, it's not suitable to be angry at them. Not only are they in the verse 100 where it says right. So 100 now verse 101 it presents the reasoning that because those beings, those who obstruct fame and praise and so forth, they actually cut the door to suffering, right? They block us from entering through the door of suffering. Therefore, it is not suitable. It's incorrect to get angry at those people. So let's go ahead and read out loud verse 101. We'll first read from this version. How can I hate those who, as if due to the Buddha's blessing, block the gate as I seek to enter suffering? A slightly different presentation from this other translation. Those who wish to cause me suffering are like Buddhas bestowing waves of blessing. Are they as they open the door for my not going to an unfortunate realm? Why should I be angry with them? Actually, that third line, as they open the door for my not going to an unfortunate realm, I think it would be more appropriate to say, as they become the door bolt, right? Like the block at the door from entering the unfortunate realm. Why should I be angry with them?
그래서 다 다는 또서라 아니 가로 또받을 가니 아니 고바 계속 그 동안에 감변을 반주로 그래서 아니 대산지 신지 람네 아니 가로 소설라지 또서라 바치칭에 되게 산지의 신지 람네 나도 고강에도 나도 되나 반주마 고강에도 시작을 때 나도 기기 지도 네 근데 산지의 신지 람바전도 아니 고강에로 오자요 그래서 나도 계속 고강에서 계속 반도마 고강에로 오자게 되는 것도 고로사요 말했어.
And so because of our own attachment, because of our own wish to gain fame and praise and so forth, it's like we're about to enter through the doors to the lower realms and to cyclic existence, sufferings and so forth, right? And so those who obstruct us, who prevent us from getting that praise and fame, are like, in one translation, they say they are like Buddhas, who by their waves of blessing prevent us from entering that danger zone. In the other translation, it says, as if due to the Buddha's blessing, they block the gate as I seek to enter suffering, right? So in any case, those beings who prevent us from gaining praise and so forth are like the door bolt or something that blocks us from going through that door, the entry to suffering. So for example, if we create negativities and by the power of the negativity, as a result, we be reborn in the lower realms and so forth, right? And so someone who prevents us from creating those negative actions, they're actually preventing us from experience the result of being born in the lower realms and so forth, and so therefore are actually helping us, benefiting us. And therefore it's not suitable to become angry at those because they're actually helping us. And so for example, if one were about to steal, right? And someone says, don't steal because if you steal, then if you get caught, then you're going to be put in prison, and there are all these other negative consequences of that. And so if that person is able to convince one not to engage in that action of stealing, then that person saved one from the negative consequences of going to prison and so forth, right? So similarly in that way. So then with each verse it's presented like a conversation or debate with oneself, right? So if you were to say, well, if I did this, then what? And then the answer to that he provides, well, if you did that, then this would happen. And then in answer to that answer, you might say, yeah, but that might be the case, but what about this? You know, so that's the presentation of these verses here. It's like logical reasonings or debate with oneself. And so the next, so when in reply to these reasonings that said it's not appropriate to become angry at those who prevent us from gaining fame and so forth because they save us from falling through the realms and they block us from these negative consequences, then one might then ask the question, yeah, okay, maybe that's a suitable reason for not getting angry with them, but what about getting angry with them because they actually are preventing us from gaining merit, right? So in question to that kind of reasoning or that kind of doubt, then the following verses give an answer. So we will read verse 102. Right? So first in this version, it is wrong to feel anger towards someone, thinking that person impedes my merit. As there is no austerity equal to patience, shall I not abide in that? So in this other version it says, but what if someone should obstruct my gaining merit? With them too, it is incorrect to be angry. For since there is no fortitude similar to patience, surely I should put it into practice. So usually when we think of an enemy, is someone with whom we do not get along, with whom we do not share same opinion, same point of view, someone who obstructs us from being able to do what we want and so forth, right? And so here when we're talking about enemy, it's in that context. It's not necessarily someone who with a fire or a weapon is ready to kill you or cause you harm. It's not that kind of enemy that we're discussing here. And so Geshe was mentioning the word da or enemy because in the commentary here it's not explicitly stated in the root verse, but in the commentary it says if such an enemy, who blocks us from being able to practice and accumulate merit, gain merit, and so forth, right? So if such a person were to prevent us from gaining merit, isn't it appropriate to be angry with them, right? And so then, but then the answer is no. Even in that case, it is wrong to get angry towards someone because there is nothing that is equal in us. There is nothing greater than practicing patience when it comes to gaining merit, right? As it says here, there's no austerity equal to patience, or there's no fortitude similar to patience. And since such a person is becoming the cause or condition for us to practice patience, and not get as an antidote to anger, that person actually becomes a helper in our practicing patience and thereby gaining a lot of merit, and therefore it is unsuitable. It is not good to be angry at that person either, and rather we should put into practice patience. And so so we should definitely practice in abiding patience. Think about it again and again and practice in abiding patience and not give way to anger. And so if you're someone who is a practitioner of Buddha Dharma, then if someone becomes an obstruction to you studying, or becomes, a negative condition, an obstruction, obstacle to your practicing or meditating and so forth, it's still not right to get angry at that person.
가 곰자대요 들어서. 야 고코라 치기 전에 참 가래난 게요. 아 곰자대요. 양주질랑 가래난 거다 고 테마서는 고로서는 가 곰자가서 고 야라는 고 대용을 했어.
And so there's a story of one Lama who was meditating, right? And then there was someone else who knew that he was meditating and wanted to kind of test how well he was meditating and putting into practice what he claimed to be doing. And so then he was kind of like, and this Lama was, I guess, sitting in a public space where this other person was circumambulating. He kind of circumambulated around this Lama, and then came around and asked him at first very respectfully, "Oh, Lama, what are you doing?" And the Lama replied, "I'm meditating," right? And then he quietly circumambulated again and came back to the Lama and said, "Lama, what are you doing?" And the Lama, because he already answered first time, he said, "Well, I'm meditating," right? And then the person circumambulated third time and then came around and asked the same question again, "Lama, what are you doing?" And by that time, the Lama kind of lost his patience and said angrily, "I'm meditating." So it goes to show that he actually wasn't meditating on patience because he lost patience. Yeah.
어떻게 저래다 내가 가리나 가지고 가서 고로사요 말들라고 너 제가 또 솔라 빠지는데 고로사면 것도 임바지 알로 제가 그 냠명치알라 빠지지나 고로사요 말씀이더라.
And so what that illustrates is that no matter what, we shouldn't be getting angry. So of course, for someone who prevents you from gaining praise and fame and so forth, yeah, it's maybe easier to understand you shouldn't get angry with them. But even in regards to those who prevent you or who become obstacles to your gaining merit by practicing the six professions such as generosity and so forth, or by meditating or studying, even in regards to those, you should not get angry. So if we don't think about this correctly, then there's a danger of misunderstanding the meaning. And so a miscomprehension of the practice of patience would be like, no matter what that person is doing to me, I should just bear it and not do anything. That's not what is being stated here as practice of patience. So the meaning here, the advice being given here is not that you should just be like a doormat to anything that anyone does, everything that someone does to you. The advice here is don't be angry, but within that state of not being angry, of practicing, abiding in patience, then you should apply whatever method that is necessary to resolve that situation.
아니 땅으로 미시고 송도 왔어. 저는 고로사와는 미팔아에 남도시나 내시나 저는 오늘 여 보고 말했어. 고로사와나 매일 두고잖아. 나도한테 배울로서라. 배울로도 고로잖아. 고로는 내가 봐주리지 그러고. 고로사는 조슈나 따다도 고 보고 말했어. 고로 마사나 저도 저는 가와시구나 따다 쇼레스.
So His Holiness always says usually like in the old days in Tibetan culture, when one gets angry, the expression of that mode of anger would be with the fist, or physically in fights and so forth, right? Like throwing punches, let's say, right? You get into physical altercation because you're angry. And His Holiness would jokingly say, if you were angry and you were to strike back, then your blow might not hit the target at the exact place where you meant to hit, because out of anger you're not in control. But if you're not angry and you throw that punch, then it will go exactly where you wanted it to go. Right?
일단 나도 고로사가 이게 될 테다 가지고 이게 누가들이 정말 고로 앞에서 나한테 테냐면 가서 그러고 누가 제거도 왔어. 고로사는 가지고 가고 누가 나가 이게 좀 아무리 제로 왔어. 고로 맞아 이게 말하면 따따 이동은 누가 제거하려고 왔어. 누가
So for example, when we're angry and we start firing out those messages out of anger, then later on, then we might have strong regret for having sent that or said that or expressed those things. But so it's very, very important not to get angry. And so if we're able to, in the state of restraining against getting angry. Abiding in that state of patience, that is an antidote to anger. So in that state of not getting angry, then if we apply any method as a solution to that specific situation or problem, then the result will also be much more favorable.
And the Yamle by watching in the party coming ocean, some Yabadati, some Kadina, Ding Yadati, Yapomaris.
And if one is a genuine practitioner, it's very important not to hold in mind as like resentment, whatever has happened. And then if you were to hold that strong resentment, then even by seeing or hearing that person's name, you will become unhappy. That will disturb your mental state of equanimity. And so if we know the faults, the faults of such actions, or if we recognize the negative aspects of such things, then we should recognize it, and then we should do practice whatever method to prevent that from happening.
And the Georgian Mapel that draws Daula Matos, Kodu Masas.
So when Lama Atisha came to Tibet, he is quoted as having said, "Do not get angry at your enemies," right? If you were to get angry at your enemies, then how are you going to practice patience?
And Georgia Corona, your bush, your pop, not a soldiers, and the Pevas that can't Georgia the Patansos, Mother Peva, Shapsha, and then Zoa comes up with that.
And so then when Lama Atisha arrived in Tibet, he brought with him an attendant from India, an Indian attendant, who when the Tibetans saw him, he seemed to always be very disrespectful and, was very rude to Lama Atisha. Used very rude, disrespectful language towards him and things like this, right? And so the Tibetan disciples then asked Lama Atisha, requested, well, can you just send him away? And we will be we'll serve as your attendants, right? We'll provide you with a better attendant. And Lama Atisha replied, and no, of course not, because he's my best teacher for practicing patience. And so if you're a real practitioner, that's the way that one should think. But of course, for someone like beginners like us, it's very difficult to put into practice, isn't it? And so, when we practice or when we study, the real reason or purpose of studying is to be able to ultimately put what we studied into practice, so that we are able to subdue our minds and diminish the delusions and so forth, right?
Okay. Then we stop here. Any questions? I have not talked too much. Yes.
When you experience that resentment rising, though, you ask someone who hurts you, and you kind of know it's not right for them to hurt you that way, but and the resentment rises, then you have to step back and contemplate it's coming from his delusions. What is the best way, the antidote for when that resentment rises?
Landu Samba and Candice that Tapshi Yakshu Hare.
Tati Tapshi Yakshu de Tangune Korangi Mishi, Takoramora Karina, Korani Jetayam, Numo Yawan Javaresam. Tikola Palasam, Yakshu de Teres.
So the best method in that kind of situation is to think about the fact that such a person is acting out of his or her own ignorance and delusions as well, and is powerless, is merely being led, by his or her ignorance and delusions, negativities.
파트 진진 된데 뭐 오지 진짜 도마도 고랑군이 더 말했어. 또 많이 걸 선탄다 야 보여래.
So then you can also reflect on the emptiness aspect of it, which is that that person does not exist just as he or she appears to you, right? That person is also the result of many different causes and conditions coming together to make that person appear that way to you as well in that specific situation.
아니 야 쇼질았다 근데 저도 가는 게 제왕하면 세셔 레진데요. 그래? 근데 내가 수질은 뭐야 와 쇼삼나 양편도 그랬어.
And then also from our side, recognizing that having to encounter that kind of a person or have that situation ripen upon us is also dependent on our own karmic imprints from the past as well. And so then may such situation not arise again, and may we not engage in activities that could result in such situations in the future. And so thinking in that way can also be beneficial. And so if one is able to practice and think in that way, then it will be very beneficial, but it's not easily done, right? We can't. In our case, once we think that it is like that, it's very hard to change our minds about it, right? In order to change our minds, transform our minds, it takes time. And it takes time and it takes effort to think like it, to train our minds in a different way again and again. And so then oftentimes we won't think about our own faults, right? Our wrongdoings or our own faults. We think that we are in the right, and then holding on to that strong grasping thought that we are in the right, then we will then engage in negative actions such as lying or getting angry or thinking of what's the word, fooling, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on.
Misleading.
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 Yeah. So we'll engage in actions such as that out of our own grasping ignorance that thinks that we are in the right.
Okay? Any other questions?
And so the younger people, do you guys have any questions? And it doesn't necessarily have to be on the text that we just covered, just in general. Do you have any questions for Geshe? No?
No questions? Yes.
We were talking about one of the antidotes, if somebody was to block your acquisition of fame or material gain, and you say that it would you view it as being able to, it helps you to appreciate the unsatisfactoriness of cyclic existence. In the Lama teachings on the curricula and revered, in the 8 qualities of the ideal form of human, it seems that reputation and wealth are aspects of that. And I was wondering why that wouldn't be an impediment to appreciating the unsatisfactoriness of cyclic existence. I'm sorry, last one. You always wonder why considered qualities in the ideal form. Right. Why those would be, I'm sorry, I didn't get the very last part of your question. So, why would wealth and reputation and standing be considered good qualities in the ideal form of human if what we're saying here as an antidote to that, not having that dissatisfaction with cycle existence. But to go on and say that they're not, they're helping us. Right, so just because someone blocks us, protects us from, and there's a difference between being a mere block to something versus then increasing a different quality. Right? So these people, what they're doing is because it's like what Geshe said, if you were about to drink poison, and someone knocks that out of you, you had a cup of poison, you're about to drink it, and someone knocks that out of you, they stop you from experiencing drinking that poison, right? It's really that blocking, right? And so then in the text that Geshe explained, but in his commentary, he said, because praise and fame explicitly, directly, the text is stating praise and fame lead us to the lower realms or bind us to cycle existence. But Geshe then pointed out, implicitly or indirectly, is also talking about our attachment to gaining that fame and praise, the worldly fame and praise. And so since that becomes the source for us to engage in actions that lead to, the cycle existence, or that also then become the causes and conditions for our own merit and good qualities to deteriorate, for our disillusion of the cycle existence to deteriorate, and as a result of that, our wish to be free from cycle existence or renunciation for that, as a result, proportion to deteriorate with that. So since all of that, the source of all of that is what? Praise, the worldly praise and fame, and our attachment to gaining that worldly praise and fame. Right? So the source of all those things of, being born inside the existence, experiencing the sufferings of all realms, disadvantages of all realms, having our own collective merit and, renunciation and dissolution of cycle existence, all of that comes from worldly praise and fame and our attachment to worldly praise and fame. So those who obstruct us from getting praise and fame become those who stop us, like before, that blocks us from going through the entryway to cycle, into pre-world cycle existence and the world. I understand that unless I'm misremembering, is it not true though that the equality of the ideal human quality? Right, so that's the second portion, right? So, and I fear is distinguishing that someone who obstructs entering into that other side is not the same as increasing necessarily the dissolution. Yeah? So that's one thing. So then second portion to your
question is now the praise and fame that is mentioned in this context versus praise and fame that is mentioned in the different qualities of a perfect human rebirth. So how do they
walk?
Well, don't they?
I guess I'm trying to understand how they could be considered qualities, and at the same time we're saying that they're to present these pitfalls to appreciating the unsatisfactory cycle of
lumiten
Taoji.
dinang la tani kechu geyowa dinang la yang da so so de asa penjur da ponsu so pa yo ba dang ene tora yo ba dang den so dane yonten cha기도 와 ane mi yonten asa 그게 통해 제주라오지 계산 쇼지는 나는 돈에 대 쇼지 디 돈에 따라 싸우다 된소 연대 연구도 아니 단다디 배전을 준준 나오나
대지 대코 카레스 대니코 카레 대니가 말했어 니나랑 가서 또라다 고여로 봐. 나 또라다 근데 나 녀바라 밥딱 여러 봐서 나도 tel라 마찬가지 이거 그래서 민간에 저 또라다는 나도 야 또라다한테 벤조여 왔다 저는 나도 야 샴발라 펜토체도 좀 펜토고 그래서 내가도 고 그래서 고야 고 그래다 얘나 나도 때 가로 탑이자
okay
때 맞아와시.
So the difference is this, right? When we talk about in terms of the perfect human rebirth and the eight qualities, among which having, say, wealth and a good reputation and so forth. In that context, actually, that's the result of previously good karma, right? That's the good result of having created good actions that ripen into that result. And it's that having that result of those good qualities, we need that in order to be able to benefit others from a Dharma practitioner's perspective. We need, if we have wealth and if we have material prosperity, to be able to practice then generosity and help others. We need good reputation or renown in order for others to have faith in us, conviction in what we say as being valid or something worthwhile considering and following. Yeah. And so those are qualities that we do need, but in this context, those aren't the qualities. It's not something that we should be chasing after out of attachment and engaging in methods to try to obtain that or increase that, right? So it's kind of that's the difference between, you know. So for example, if you were to take the example of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, because he is such a famous person, he's able to benefit countless numbers of followers and students and people all over the world, right? But from his side, he always says, I don't think of myself as this Dalai Lama, this special being. I always think of myself as a gelong, a fully ordained monk following the Buddhist footsteps, and try to think myself as someone who's tried to be, you know, as good ordained monk as possible, right? So like so he's not actively trying to gain fame for himself. So Geshe says he's not criticizing necessarily saying it's bad, but you know, so if you were to compare the example of His Holiness the Dalai Lama versus the example of the Olympic athletes right now, who are training and going through so many different difficulties in order solely for what actually is for that worldly fame, right, and recognition. So it's you can see the difference between the two. And so it's like that.
And
so those Olympic athletes, if you really consider the dangers of the activities of the sports that they're engaging in, it's like they are willing to sacrifice their life, their body and life, just in order to be able to achieve that fame and recognition. And to any living being, the most precious thing that one has is one's own life, isn't it? But for those athletes, they probably don't even think that I might die, by engaging in this sport. The most foremost in the foreground of their mind is to be able to get that recognition, to be able to get that, medal. And in order to get that, achieve their goal, I think of how many years, how much, difficulties. And then and how worried they are should I fail and not be able to achieve something here, achieve that medal, achieve that standing, what would happen? How much worry and stress that they suffer. And so if one were to be focused solely on gaining that fame and praise, then there's a lot of suffering that follows, right, on that path. But when fame and praise and so forth just follow one as a mere result of one's good activities, then there's no such suffering or hardship experienced by the person. So therefore, you should do well to distinguish between the two.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
I feel like in trying to apply the Bodhisattva teachings, like maybe one day I can try to do something good, and then like 2 months I can't do anything. Is maybe these teachings like too high for me? And if so, like what can I do or what can I study that might be a lower teaching?
마세도 제생하는 소데마세도 됐 레라온도 요레스
Lojong Sine Madang, Shimba?
제세라는 소데마 제세라는 소데마 이와 바바 토맥소 제세 라는 소데마
There's 37 practices of Bodhisattva.
도저 됐 레라온도 요레스 샤좀 생면 냠내서도 빼깔래 가오래 냠내 천통보레스 시다 도저 니네 냠내는 데도 고대원도 요레스 니네다 소소 초와던 데도 말고 그래서 고대원도
And so Geshe said, of course, these are very high practices as what's being taught here in the Guide to Bodhisattva's Way of Life, and very difficult to put into actual practice. But so for very, very beginners, maybe it might be helpful also to take a look at the 8 verses of mind training, or the 37 practices of Bodhisattvas and so forth, yeah? Because then they present some of these aspects in a more easier to understand, easier to apply manner. And then also about karma, the principles. And so then karma is like actually a Sanskrit word, but the actual translation or the meaning of that means action and therefore cause and effect. Principles that define cause and effect. And so like the principles of karma, such as, if there is a cause, then a result will ripen from that cause. If there is no cause, then no result can ripen. Right? So those the principles of causality, of karma law, cause and effect. About those. And so, for example, our experience of happiness and suffering are mere results, and they come from their own set of causes, right? And so to think about that, and if you really understand, if you can really get the meaning of that those are results coming from its own set of causes and conditions, and contemplate that a lot, then it will become easier to be able to put into practice in daily life. One of the most difficulties to our practice, or obstacles to our practice, is if we were not to know well the principles of karma, of cause and effect, causality, principles of causality, or not be convinced, not be able to have conviction about that, then that becomes one of the main obstacles into our development and practice. So for example, if you were to be experiencing suffering and then realizing that suffering comes from a cause, right, its own set of causes and conditions, but recognizing and admitting that the ones who created those causes and conditions for suffering is our own selves, it's also hard to admit that. Accept that. And so because we either don't know about these causes and conditions, or we know about them, learn about them, but then cannot admit to ourselves that we are actually the agents of those actions that ripen to those results. And so if we are in denial about that, or don't admit it, or don't know it, have misconceptions about it and so forth, then that becomes a big obstacle into our furthering progress on practice and studies. And so then if we are able to gain a firm and good understanding about the principles of causality and so forth, then it will be very beneficial in our own progress as well.
Okay, now we stop. Let's jump past. Okay, thank you. I hope you can get some benefits to read some more books, study more, thinking more, discussion. Okay?
Turn to page 39. Saji puki shuk sing metok drum, re rap ling ji ni de kiam badi, sange jing du mek te u wargi, droko nam dak jing la che pa sho, je tsun la me ku tse rap ten ching, nam kar trin ne chok chu kia padang, lo zang ten pedro me sa sum gi, dro we mun sal tak tu ne kyo chik, idam guru ratna mandala kam niryatayami. From my two collections, vast space that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time may become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds' wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach a state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all my lives, Manjushri. May I find the best of complete graded paths of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by practicing. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted boundless peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time. By even this great course to enlightenment completed, due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their children, may all human and non-human beings eliminate adversity and make things conducive for practicing the excellent paths, never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. If someone makes an effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may they always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. In that snow mountain encircled land, source of every benefit and joy, may Lord Tenzin Gyatso Chenre Zik remain in life till samsara's end. Savior of the snowland teachings and transmigratory beings, who extensively clarifies the path that unifies emptiness and compassion, to the lotus in the hand, Lord Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be fulfilled. Page 49. You uphold the subduous moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes magnificent prayers, honoring the three jewels. Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. Page 57. Through this virtue may I swiftly, having gained Guru Buddha state, place each and every sentient being without exception in that state. Precious Supreme Bodhi mind, may it where unborn arise, and where born never decline, but increase forevermore. Page 75. Make Metse way the Chen Rezik dream make Yambe Wambo Jambayang Gang Chen Ke Bei Tzu Gyan Song Kapa Lob Sang Dra Pe Jabla So Thank you very much, Geshe. Thank you, Geshe. Quick, we have coming up, so these first 2 weeks of the new year in Tibetan tradition is very auspicious to do lots of meritorious activities. It's merit multiplying time, so whatever positive actions you can do gets multiplied. Unfortunately, I believe negative ones as well, so but let's focus on the positive ones. And so with that in mind, please join us for all the activities. We've got some activities scheduled. So this coming week, we've got on Thursday night, Tara Puja. Puja, the word means to please, so please come join us. It's very joyous, informal, so please come at 7 o'clock on Thursday. And then on Saturday, we'll do a recitation of the Sutra of Golden Light. It's a beautiful sutra that Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who's the head of the organization we belong to, has always advised us to do, and specifically for world peace. compassion. And so it's extremely valuable to do the recitation of that sutra. So we'll do that this coming Saturday. And then on the Sunday after following class, we'll have a Guru Puja as well. And that's in short. Otherwise, just keep an eye on the calendar. We've got lots of things coming up in the rest of the year. And stop me if you have any questions. And we have an offerings of services board outside. If you have a few minutes to help with some cleanup tasks, we always have. Everything is done by volunteers over here. So any help, greatly appreciated. That's it. That's thanks, everyone. Thank you so much, Geshe. Namcho's back end of February. Guru Puja is 12:30. Geshe asked to make it earlier. Yeah. Thank you.
Information online, targeting at a certain type of content. So there's a similar term we can express.